And it's 1 o'clock, and you're about to listen to Nonprofit Insider. I know you are. You're listening to the one and only WMPG, W281 AC, Gorham, Portland. We are Southern Maine and Eastern New Hampshire Community Radio, broadcasting live at 90.9 and 104.1 FM from the University of Southern Maine. Streaming at the web at WMPG.org. And if you have a personal listening device, you could take us along with one of those very clever apps that you can get from the App Store. I wonder what the weather's like.
Well, I can tell you. The weather this coming weekend is this afternoon mostly sunny, although looking out the window, I don't agree. It says a high of 42. Tonight, mostly clear, low of 25. And then Saturday is the day, sunny all day with a high of 38. And in the evening, mostly clear. So you'll probably get a little frost on your glasses, on your car. Low of 26. Sunday, mostly cloudy, high of 43. And then 30% chance of rain or snow Sunday night. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, wow. WMPG's on the air thanks to donations from our listeners and through grant support from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The CPB promotes the growth and development of public media in communities throughout America. Online at cpb.org.
Driving, music's blaring in my ears. Engines roaring, the horizon's drawing near. Pedal to the floor, no more feet in the door. Gonna drive right out of this bitter night. I'm a constant seeker.
Welcome to Nonprofit Insider. My name is David Unger, and I'm pleased to be hosting a show with the executive directors and key people of local nonprofits. I myself have worked in the nonprofit world for over 30 years. In those years, I've realized that the majority of the community does not know about the organizations that provide critical services and benefits to our community that we sometimes take for granted. This is a chance to hear about the organizations that touch so many in our community. The opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff and underwriters, or of USM. We have a really giddy engineer with us today. She's been here since 5:30 this morning. So are you going to hold up there, Deb?
I always hold up for you, David.
All right. Oh, that's good to know. Well, today's guest, we have Kathy Young. Kathy's the executive director of the Cancer Community Center. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Good having you. So, Cancer Community Center, that's a little different than a hospital or something else like that. How would you describe it?
It's very different than a hospital. It's a center for social and emotional support. So we don't get involved in people's clinical or medical situation in any way, but we are a place people can come and laugh and stretch their bodies. We have a whole range of wellness classes, yoga, Pilates. We have crafts and cooking. We have education. But the most where we support people, and that's the building the community, is we have support groups. So some of them are open. If you just recently diagnosed, you're lost and confused, you can come to the open weekly group. If it's very specific, prostate, breast, lung, there are cancer-specific support groups, and we host 14 different groups. So it's quite a range. And then groups aren't for everyone. So the knitting circle is a group, really. They might do some knitting, but that's an opportunity.
I wear a size extra large.
Okay. But the one of the most effective outreach connecting things, because everything that I just described happens in South Portland at 778 Main Street. But the Buddy program is statewide. So, and it's a one-on-one kind of mentoring, peer support, phone-based. So if I just got recently diagnosed and I lived in Fort Kent or Kittery or South Portland, and my cancer is specific, lung, skin, whatever it is, the Buddy program will match me up with a survivor in that cancer specific or lifestyle specific. So if I'm 48 and maybe I've got 2 kids and teenagers and recently divorced and whatever my life situation is, that might be where I need support. how did someone else get through this situation? Or maybe it's a bereaved. So I'm a widower, and so I could get a buddy that's survived that experience, or I'm the sister. So the buddy program is fantastic in that we offer support across every way someone can be affected by cancer anywhere in the state of Maine.
So do you charge fees for these groups or participation or No?
Everything that we offer is free of charge.
Wow.
Comes at a considerable cost, but it is free of charge.
We'll go there in a little bit. But so anybody who's facing this life crisis can basically just call you up and utilize your services.
Absolutely. They're more than welcome to come in. We work with both the hospitals and patient navigators and all the different folks at the different New England cancer specialists. All the different places often refer people to us. But everyone has to take that step themselves. So
I would guess that's the
tricky
hardest part of taking that step and saying, okay, I have this disease and I have to find help to navigate through that.
Yep.
What advice would you give somebody to take that step?
Well, to understand that while it is very unique to you and it's a life-altering experience, and what you hear, and now your new future is, that's what people say, the new reality. While that feels very personal and very unique, there are unfortunately many people who've had that experience. And what I've been told, because I have been affected by cancer in as much as my father died from complications of cancer, but I'm so far so good.
To hear that.
But that when you come to the Cancer Community Center, you are immediately surrounded by people who have gone through that exact experience in their own way, and have dealt with their own unique cancer, but they understand your language. And that's the thing that I continually hear, is that I am understood and I feel at home among people I don't know, but that we share this common heartbreaking and life-altering experience.
And I'm pleased to say I've actually been in the center.
Great. I am too. Pleased to hear it.
Not on a personal level, but more of a professional level. And it's very airy. It's very upbeat. It's very bright. And it feels like a home almost.
Yeah, it's disconcerting because when I was driving to find the place originally, I've only just started in June and came down for a scoping expedition, and I drove by it twice. Henrietta, who I call my GPS, she kept saying, "You've just passed your destination." I couldn't have. That's an office block with a big parking lot. What?
Right.
But there it was, 778 Main, and it's well marked. You can't miss it unless you're looking for a home.
Right.
But when you get up the stairs, you walk in, there's a nice comfy couch, and yeah, it's very welcoming. The support center rooms, the meeting rooms, where also we have massage and different wellness, different things, Reiki and whatnot. But they are like your living room, couches and chairs and side tables, and it's comfortable.
So we had talked a little bit about funding, and that's an issue for every nonprofit that I bring onto the show. So we're going to skip that one, knowing we're going to come back to it at some point. But what are some of the issues that you see that the Cancer Community Center will be facing in the next couple years?
I would guess that, well, one, cancer, the incidence is on the increase, unfortunately. So that's not going away. That reality is increasing. And increasingly, I should say that the cancer, what I'm reading about and understanding, is that more and more younger people, and when I put us in that category. But while we have an under 40s group, that 30 to 50 catchment is increasingly coming up with cancer, and so those are folks that are then trying to work with cancer. So being able to meet them and provide support, most of our support right now is to folks who are retired or elderly, and so they're free during the day and whatnot. But being able to provide early morning, late evening, weekends, meeting people, again, where they are, what they need, and then trying to support them as they continue to try to function professionally. So that's going to be a big thing for everyone.
In the news this week, it came across my email. There was a recent post-election interview with Governor LePage, and he made the statement that Maine nonprofits, and I quote, don't pay their fair share, end of quote, and that they are, quote, takers and not givers, end of quote. How does that sit with you?
Well, I don't know what he's asking or presuming we're not paying our fair share of, but I can tell you that our annual budget is $655,000.
And how many people do you serve?
Our monthly foot traffic is just under 1,000 people. So 1,000 people come. So the actual unique bodies are closer to about 230, but there are nearly 1,000 instances of people coming to something. You know, some people come to a support group and then come back to yoga. Other folks will come once, and so over 12,000. You know, the foot. You know, it's
Right.
how you want to count it. But and that doesn't include all the buddies. So we've got over 250 buddies because they're scattered all around the state. We've got support groups that are around in different churches and whatnot that come from our training. So I don't actually have a specific number, but hundreds and hundreds. We also work, as I say, with the hospitals, and so I consider everyone that knows about us and endorses us and advocates for us part of us, because I want to count the numbers. But we take any dollar that you'll give us, and then we'll give you a receipt. And thank you, and thank you again, because all of our services are free. So we need to meet our budget. Our operating budget to provide these services is $655,000. We don't own a building; we pay rent. So we're helping someone pay a property tax.
But
we're giving back in every way. I'm
right,
employing
that's where
6 people.
That's where I was going, in the sense that you're not taking state funds.
Not at all. Not a dime.
Okay.
No federal or state funds.
All the money that you raise is by
Philanthropy.
relationships and building, contacts and asking people for stuff.
Yep.
And you're giving this incredible service back to the community. And I think most nonprofits would feel the same way you do.
I hope so. My whole career has been in nonprofits. I've worked for the YMCA. I've worked for the Red Cross. I've worked for the Ronald McDonald House. I've worked for a land trust. I've worked for a university. And I can honestly say that the reason I stay in the sector is that you make a difference. You get to see and affect change in your local community. And it's beautiful to witness, and there's all the incentive of why I've worked for those charities is to make a difference and give back. And with the land trust, it was to preserve land so that there's opportunity for folks in the future to get out and experience fresh air. The Red Cross, it's to show up and be of service to rescue. I mean, it's all wonderful, and I get the impression that LePage maybe needs to go serve soup at a soup kitchen and understand what it's all about.
Right. The opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff or underwriters, or of USM. So we're at our halfway point, and I do get to ask you a trivia question that you don't know anything about. I try and do some research about your type of... You can't look at my notes. Okay. To try and figure out a trivia question that would match the kind of work that you do. So this is a multiple choice question.
Okay.
The majority of cancer survivors, 64%, were diagnosed 5, 10, or 15 or more years ago. And I'll go to my identifier. This is WMPG 90.9 and 104.1 FM, community radio of Southern Maine and Eastern New Hampshire. Today on Nonprofit Insider, we have Kathy Young, Executive Director of the Cancer Community Center.
So you're asking that if I had a diagnosis of cancer, was it 5, 10, or 15 years ago?
64%.
That I'm surviving
yes,
from?
64% were diagnosed
5, 10.
or 15.
I would
This is a
say
stall tactic.
10.
10. The majority of cancer survivors, according to the American Cancer Society's website, were diagnosed 5 or more years ago.
There you go. I was right.
No, you
I said 10. That's more than 5.
15% of the survivors diagnosed 20 or more years ago, and nearly half, 46% of cancer survivors are 70 years of age and older.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, the majority of the folks that I see on a daily basis are in their 60s or 70s. And what's sad about the part that maybe it's not being, they might have had a diagnosis way back when, but 2 wonderful women that I know of are just having a reoccurrence. And so it's the fending it off over time.
Right.
You're never really cured, even when you're cured.
You must see some really heartbreaking stories come through your door.
No. I see people who are wonderful. And it's very similar to the Ronald McDonald House. People just couldn't imagine why I'd want to work at a Ronald McDonald House where kids are dying. And what you see are these amazing people who take nothing for granted and really teach us how to celebrate every day. I said after I left Ronald McDonald House, I would never complain again because I have all my fingers and my toes. We were at Stanford Children's, so
Right.
we had pretty unique things that showed up. And it's the same with cancer. I mean, it's the same with anything. If you are facing yourself and your own mortality, you hopefully rise above and become a really special person. So I'm surrounded by really special people all day long who help to teach me to be a better person myself.
It's amazing when, and I've been in this situation also where you can learn from your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it puts a whole different perspective on things.
Yeah.
If you had to give a new executive director or new board president some advice on working in a nonprofit, what would that be?
I am a new executive director.
I knew that.
I've been trying to figure out what advice I should give myself. And it's the whole thing of be careful what you wish for. I've felt ready to be an executive director for years, and would be quick to tell any of my supervisors what they could do better. Maybe not to their face. And now I'm here, and certainly to listen more than you talk is always good advice, which is advice I rarely take. but
Remember, we're on
yeah,
live radio.
I know, and my people are going to hear this. But it is to understand that there are things have been established for a reason. That the challenge is to make sure that the reason is still valid, and explore, why do things get done the way they get done, and I guess the thing I would advise the folks who get a new executive is just because questions get asked doesn't mean that they're out to change everything. Sometimes you have to ask questions to understand.
Right.
But I find that folks, when they hear me asking all these questions, they just presume, if she's examining this, it's going to change. Well, not necessarily, but I got to understand.
Right.
So, yeah.
There is a paranoia when a new exec comes in.
Yeah. Strong paranoia.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you had to describe one program at the Cancer Community Center that really impressed you during your interview process or something that just really caught your eye, what would that be?
I'd come back to the buddy program. The main buddy program, because it is so personal and it links together situation or cancer, whichever the fit works best. But what's impressive about it not only is its ability to reach people, and so I could be a buddy to up to 4 different people. It's not a huge time commitment. It's very rewarding. It's personally connecting people, and I've heard nothing but generally positive comments. But it's also a way in. So if you're newly diagnosed and I am assigned a buddy, and then I come through that experience, those folks tend to become the people that then become buddies themselves. So it's a real pay-it-forward program that just keeps extending and extending. And to the degree that if I was a buddy and my mother, or whatever the situation is, that's where we get those families and the other players that round out the options for the buddy program, because people see the impact and and they're going through it as a caregiver or as a partner or as the bereaved or whatever the situation is. And so it grows organically and in a real powerful way, person by person.
So I'm a potential new donor, and you have your elevator shtick now. Why would I want to contribute to your organization when there's so many other groups out there?
You would want to support the Cancer Community Center because you are affected by cancer, and because everyone is. It's 1 in 3, I think, of the statistics, and probably 1 in 2. And because the Cancer Community Center is unique in that we are no barrier. We won't ask you any questions. We treat everyone as someone who needs love and support and an opportunity to rest and relax and focus on their wellness and getting healthy. And we're just unique in as much as there is no in our opportunity, and we will offer as many opportunities. So if you come in and say, I've got a skill and I want to give back, we'll find room for you in our calendar. And we're unique in that way that we really try to explore everything about community. How can it help somebody who's going through a challenge that is cancer? And we'll find a way to support them. And to do that, we need to be supported. So it's a love building on love kind of program.
It's good stuff. And so now that I'm sold and I wanted to make a gift, how would I do that?
You can go to our website at cancercommunitycenter.org and do online, and hopefully you'd want to do that every month, and you'd hook that up so that it was a regular giving. You could send a check to 778 Main Street in South Portland, or you could come in and we'd give you a tour and we'd show you around, and we would welcome you to attend any of the programs, because the one thing that I'm struggling to find a way to articulate to make sure people really get it is our yoga classes, our whatever it is that we offer, it really is for everyone. And I hear so many people say, oh, I'm in to support my mom or to drop off my sister or whoever. And then they leave, and then they come back an hour later. It's like, well, why didn't you stay and
So you
do
don't
the
have to
thing?
be a survivor or
No,
have cancer to
it's-
participate in yoga.
That's right. It's for anyone who's
any
affected
of your
by
classes.
cancers. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're affected by cancer and you want to come here and experience what we're offering, we want you to be there, because the energy of the caregivers and the family is also important to surround the survivors. We are not for people who are currently a patient or in survivorship, as we say. It really is for everyone. That's the big message to get out.
And I assume you have a good cadre of volunteers who are working with you.
We do. We run on the back of volunteers. We only have 6 staff, and we put on 4 major events. Our fundraising events, all of the support groups, those 14 different support groups, they are run by 2 trained volunteers. So not only do we ask volunteers to volunteer, but then we expect them to attend a 32-hour training and ongoing monthly connections so that they stay safe and emotionally, the boundaries, and they understand their job as a volunteer. All those buddies that I talked about, 200 plus buddies, volunteers, they have to attend a 6-hour training. And then just the folks that come in and cook soup and help us, lead different crafts. And we nominally pay some of our yoga and wellness instructors, but most of the time, even some of them do it for love.
When I was researching the trivia question, I try and come up with something unique, and I didn't see very many other models like this across the country.
Well, there are.
Okay.
Patrick Dempsey might think he invented cancer support. And that was on the front page of the Portland Press Herald the other day. And he's done a great job of lifting the profile of the need for cancer support. But we've been doing it for 17 years because Jane Staley,
Right.
who was a local person, got cancer and said, I need a community that of other survivors. There's also a center in Ellsworth called the Beth C. Wright Cancer Support Center. Again, Beth C. Wright, God bless her, she left a house and a legacy to support cancer support services. And then Rita, remember Gilda Radner?
Sure.
So the Rita House is a national program of similar types of centers. Across Canada, there's an organization called Wellspring, very impressive. And there's other kind of like the Ronald McDonald House is a national model. There's Gary's House here in Portland.
Right.
So where there's enough energy, I got an email just the other day from somebody in Florida who'd been up supporting a family member with cancer over the summer and went to Florida to find out where she could get some support, and there's nothing. And she said, how do we start this? So I gave her some rules, and or not rules, but just said it takes money, it takes energy, it takes volunteers and commitment.
And it takes more money.
Yeah. If you got all that, you got to come in.
Right. So do you have any questions for me?
Well, the one thing I've lived overseas for a few years, and I'm home now in Maine, and I understand. I had a job for a while at a land trust, and so you're asking the question of, are there other centers? And the three of us, I'd have to be quick to say, work together. It's not a competition. Dempsey Center, Beth C. Wright, and Cancer Community Center. We understand that we're here to support cancer survivors and cancer patients. We're not in competition. But there's land trusts. There's you guys have sprouted land trusts in this state in the 28 years I've been gone, like mushrooms.
Yes.
And it strikes me that it saddens me at times that similarly positioned organizations don't work closer together and understand that there is no need for competition. And what's the goal? What's the goal?
Right.
And getting less focused on, is it my niche? So what's your impression? Is Maine too provincial in that way, that it really tries to carve out the corner?
I think Maine has really, it creates a small niche for each nonprofit. And I think the land trusts are a good example where it turns out every little community has its own land trust. But in some ways I see an advantage to that, because it really keeps it community-based and focused in on the community. I have the opportunity working with, you're using land trusts as an example, with land trusts around the country right now. And the larger land trusts are great, but they lose the community spirit. So I think, there's a balance in there. And when you talk about, we talked about this last week, consolidation and merger, as long as you talk about it for the right reasons, versus just because it's going to improve quality of services, which in my opinion doesn't necessarily do that.
Okay.
So hopefully that made sense. Deb's giving me the evil eye now. So I want to thank you for being on the show today. Hopefully our listeners got something out of it. I know I did. Next week, we're going to be having Amy Lent. Amy's the executive director of the Maine Maritime Museum. The music appears courtesy of Mike Hubbard. You can find it on www.michaelhubbardmusic.com. Check out Mike's website to see where he's playing this weekend. Thanks to Deb Danger, NPI's executive engineer. You can catch Deb on Morning Street, Fridays at 6:30 a.m. If you know of a nonprofit that should be on the show, please email me at npi@davidunger.net. And past shows are archived at www.tcmgr.com, NP Insider tab. Until next week.
And don't forget to stay tuned for Zvuky Rusi, rock and roll from Mother Russia, coming up next.
Growing, I've grown too big for tourist town.